Thank you, Nathaniel and Bruce, for having me here. I guess I'm between everybody and happy hour, so try to make this quick and hopefully informative at the same time. I'm Pramod Sachdeva, founder and managing director at Princeton Blue. We have been, for the last 10 years, delivering on digital transformation services, leveraging technologies like BPM, business rules, cognitive, and potentially some of the newer innovations that keep coming out. Recognized by a number of the leading analysts. The most recent one was the WAVE report of the BPM service providers that came out in last November. So when we look at these 350 plus engagements that we've done over the last 10 years, looking for some patterns in there, user experience clearly drives a good chunk of it, right? That's a lot of the effort goes into how can I engage with my customers better. Then the second one is the operational efficiency of the processes that actually support that user experience. And now over the past few years, we're starting to see how can we leverage cognitive to actually go after use cases that previously were thought out of reach of traditional BPM capabilities. So this is a solution that was put out by our innovation lab. And we've been doing a whole variety of solutions. They're actually all listed on our website. It's called Cognitive Customer Service. So that's really what I'm going to focus on today. And the concept is pretty simple, actually. Today, most applications that we use go after a very structured data, a data with a defined data model. I know exactly where every field is. I know what its format is, and so on. What we're talking about is how can we go after this unstructured data, which represents the majority of it, and actually create some value within the process, improve decisioning, and improve the business outcome. So this particular solution, there are other solutions that actually go after the external data, like what resides on social media. But this solution has a view of your call center. And for this example, we're going to look at 3 data sources: voice conversations, emails, and chats, right? All in natural language format, in written and audio form. And how can we understand something from those conversations, and we leverage the IBM Watson capability within Bluemix to actually figure that out. And once we figure it out, we interpret it in the context of business operations, which could be customer segmentation, volume, how long the customer's been with us, transaction size, et cetera, just so that we can bring it down to something that's manageable from all this big data, and then trigger off a process to actually do something about it, right? Take some action. And in the process, collect a lot of data that was normally locked in this dark data, right? Or this unstructured data, and even pass that on to the data warehouse for further analysis, right? So that's really the concept here. So I'm going to walk you through an example, and the example is a telco customer. 5G network is a customer, so the use case is basically Bruce is a customer of 5G network. And I don't know how many times this happened to you guys, but you get a bill and there's all kinds of stuff on the bill, and you're like, wait a minute, where did that come from? So he's going to call 5G network and say, I'm disputing some charges on my bill. And normally, the interaction would occur. The agent would try to access the various systems and figure out what is the best way to resolve it. The call would be over, the email would be done, actioned, and so on. Now, what we are now able to do is access that interaction, convert it into something we can actually interpret and find out what is the customer calling about. So it's now a very, very objective way of understanding what are the topics, what is the sentiment within every interaction. We're no longer dependent on an individual agent and all have varying levels of training and so on. So let's assume that Bruce calls into the call center and about his billing dispute. A couple of days go by, it's still not resolved. He checks online, and then he proceeds to chat with them. And that interaction is also captured and analyzed. And then another couple of days later, he proceeds to send them an email. So we're going to see behind the scenes, frame by frame, how this information across these 3 different channels gets analyzed, and how can we provide a better experience for customers across the board. Rather than waiting to understand how many customers did we lose last quarter or last year, we can actually intercept this in real time and actually reduce customer churn right here at this point, right? So that's the demo that I'm going to walk you guys through. Okay, so as you can see here, we've actually adopted this demo for a variety of industries. Anybody that's got a call center, this makes sense for them. So we've got variations to show clients in hospitality, in banking, insurance, et cetera. So I'm going to show you the telco one. Hopefully it hasn't timed out. Okay, so again, keep in mind that this is frame by frame. Normally this would have all be happening as the interactions is going on, and then you would simply get the results. But slowed it down so that we can actually observe what happens. So Bruce's call comes in, right? We pick up this call, and as soon as the recording is saved, we have access to it, right? So we send it away for analysis to Watson. I'm going to play it for a second so you can hear it. Oh.
How can I help you today?
Oops.
My bill and I have been charged.
It looks like you upgraded your mobile device, and these are monthly charges towards the upgrade.
I was promised a free upgrade as part of the...
Okay, this is a typical conversation going on between the customer and the agent. Well, we've now received a transcript of this and sent it away for analysis. Now, just keep in mind, this solution is running on our Amazon AWS instance, and from there, we're making call to the Watson instance that resides in IBM Bluemix, again, another cloud instance. So this is going from one cloud to the other, right? So just from this call, and based on some of the training that we have provided it, and each industry has its own training on the different topics that we would care about, you can tell here that we are 78% sure that this conversation was about a billing dispute, right? We can also tell the different emotions that are at play here based on this interaction. Clearly not a fun call, not a positive call from a customer's perspective, right? There's anger and sadness. So, right, we captured this event, right? So this is now being, being tracked, and I'll show you in a second what are the rules that would trigger it. Let's, for the moment, go back and let's assume a couple of more days go by, and this issue is still open, and Bruce is now on a chat. As soon as the chat ends, we have access to the chat, and we go ahead and analyze that as well. At this time, we're almost 100% sure that it's a billing dispute. And again, a lot of negative emotions at play, and we go ahead and capture that. Let me show you the rule that we've got set up. So it's a simple decision table that says that if you have one interaction and the negative score is 90% or more, that's enough for us to trigger this rule to do something about. If the negative score is between 50 and 90%, then I need 3 such interactions before I'm going to trigger a rule, and so on, right? Now, you can decide what this is going to be. This rule could be in the context of, is this a tier 1 customer? What is the size of this transaction? How long has he or she been with us? And so on, right? You can see here that we've got the 2 interactions, the call followed by chat, but our rule has not triggered because we've got 2. We fit into the second category. 2 interactions with a score of 60% based on the average, and our rule says it needs 3. So let's go back. A couple of more days go by, and based on the scenario, Bruce goes ahead and shoots off an email saying, look, I've been a customer for 8 years, and clearly you guys don't recognize my loyalty here. And let's go ahead and analyze it. And you can see here that, again, fairly accurately picked up as a billing dispute. It looks like there was a small chance that this could also be about a handset replacement, but we go with the higher percentages, right? You can determine your cutoff point to say if it's above a certain percentage, you can pretty much automate it, right? And again, a lot of negative emotions playing. And at this point, I know it's all the way at the bottom, I apologize for that. It says action alert triggered, right? So previously it had captured the action alert. So if I go to that same action alert screen again, you can see that the rule has now been triggered. I have 3 interactions, all of them fairly negative. My average negative score is 62%, which fits right in here, and an alert has been triggered. So let's go see what's happening. So what we've now done in the call center is by observing this interaction with the customer across all these channels. And you'll be amazed how many times within an organization the different channels are handled by different teams. So there's a team looking after email, team looking after calls, and chat representatives. So they may not even have the collective view in one spot, let alone take action. So we've immediately triggered a process, right? This is right now using IBM BPM. So this is now routed over to the outbound call team to say, you've now got something to take action on. You may transfer it over, if this was not a telco example, if this was a United example, well, you're getting a lot of calls right now about, people being ejected, and there'd be a special hotline set up for 1K customers, right? So you can see here that this is a process flow. Right? And I can define whatever I want in here. I can set it up. This is running on IBM BPM. I can define who do I want to route it to. I can set up escalation alerts. I can put in approval processes in case somebody's going to give them a discount that's above the threshold, in order to retain them as a customer. So in this case, this particular rep basically, says, called Bruce and offered 25% off next bill, right? And because it's over a certain amount, he needs approval, and it gets routed over, right? Now there's a task pending for the manager to approve it. Manager sees it coming in and just, goes ahead and says, yep, approved, and that workflow has ended, right? So we come back here, and we have now completed the actioning of this particular escalated situation in real time, right? And hopefully kept Bruce as a customer. Now, what we've done in this process of all these interactions, we've collected a lot of data. So this data, which is now which basically contains information about time, channel, the topics, the sentiment, and of course about the customer, can be used to analyze a lot of things. Now, we would expect that most organizations would take this data and feed it into their data warehouse and, in context of other operational data, and use this to understand the customer experience or customer churn or customer retention, loyalty issues better. This is a simple BI-like capability that's built right on IBM BPM. So you can see that now we have access to, by customer, we can see what topics are they generally calling about, right? So this is very useful if you're doing a new product launch. If there's an event that occurs that then suddenly sees an increase in inbound calls as a result of that event. You can see when people are calling in about a particular topic, what sort of sentiment is associated with those interactions. You can see a chronological event of, what topics are being called in over time, right? And you can see by customer, what are the different emotions at play. So, slice and dice it with, in many different ways, right? In terms of customer, channel, topic, and emotion. Now, the topic and emotion normally was not at play. So this is new information that's been added, but a lot more cognitively pulled information can be added into the mix. This was just an example. So just think of the scenario where, I could now use this capability to route emails to the right people in the first place based on topic and based on customer type, based on the sentiment within the email. It may be a different representative who should handle this. So I can automate a lot of that, right? I can also put it up on the call center, so when the call comes in, they can see this person has interacted with us on these channels about these topics, and this is how he or she felt about those topics. That can be very useful in trying to figure out, I better not try and upsell this customer given the history over the last week or so, right? This is the time to actually resolve this issue. Or in some cases, maybe it is a positive interaction and it may be time to reward loyalty, right? So you can decide what that next best action may be based on all of this information. And in a lot of cases, it could even be automated, right? So it will actually assist the representative in telling you what the next best action will be.